All right, let's jump straight into this explainer. Today we're taking on what is basically the ultimate digital challenge. We're going completely hands-on to deconstruct an impossibly complex cinematic masterpiece. And we're going to build it together layer by layer. We're looking at the anatomy of a master shot, really decoding the absolute secrets of cinematic 3D photorealism.
So, I want you to picture this. You've got a massive, packed World Cup stadium. Heavy rain is just pouring down, and right in the middle of it all, we're capturing the crushing impact and intense determination of a football player in a glowing blue jersey executing a perfect bicycle kick. And right as his boot hits the ball, time completely freezes. I'm talking individual water droplets suspended in midair. The massive stadium crowd in the background just becomes this incredible, gorgeous blur of colorful, flashing phone lights. It's a stunning visual, right? And to pull it off in 4K resolution using Unreal Engine 5, we are going to need absolute precision.
Here is our blueprint for today. We'll kick things off with the camera and time, then move into simulating that heavy rain, followed by lighting the dramatic moment, and we'll wrap up with the real secret to photorealism. Okay, let's get into part one, the camera and time. Our first major hurdle is setting up the virtual camera and essentially freezing reality to capture the absolute peak of the action. For a shot this dramatic, you know a static camera just isn't going to cut it. We have to use an orbital shot. By executing a smooth 180-degree orbit around our suspended player, we create this incredibly dynamic visual flow. Think about it. In one sweeping motion, we reveal the player's intense facial expression, the perfect arc of the ball, and the sheer vastness of that stadium. As the camera circles, it injects a huge rush of energy. It literally pulls the audience right into the heart of the action, even though the world itself is entirely paused. Now, it's actually kind of wild to think about, but this isn't a new concept at all. You can trace the evolution of freezing time way back to 1878. That's when Edward Muybridge used a line of tripwire cameras to freeze a galloping horse. Fast forward to the 1940s, and Harold Edgerton was using xenon strobe lights to photograph bullets perfectly suspended in midair. And then, of course, in 1999, The Matrix completely popularized the bullet time effect by placing multiple physical cameras in a carefully arranged arc. We're doing the exact same thing today, just entirely inside a digital environment. John Gaeta, the VFX director for The Matrix, had this great quote. He said, "We built it to move around objects that were themselves in motion." And honestly, that is our exact philosophy here. Our shot combines a statically frozen, heavy rain environment with a highly dynamic virtual camera orbiting our subject. We're completely separating the viewer's perception of time from the camera's physical movement. Moving right along to section 2, simulating the heavy rain. With our camera moving smoothly around our frozen subject, we now have to tackle the environment, specifically the crazy challenge of suspending thousands of individual water droplets mid-air.
It's time to play digital weather gods using Unreal Engine's Niagara particle system. We're basically translating a massive storm into easily digestible logic. So we start with a fountain emitter and give it a linear velocity of -1,000 on the z-axis. That's essentially simulating heavy gravity forcing the water straight down. Then we add 400 on the y-axis to give us that sweeping, wind-blown look across the stadium. After that, we use a shape location box set to 4,000 by 4,000 just to make sure we cover the entire field. And finally, we crank the spawn rate all the way up to 3,000 to make it a true cinematic downpour. All right, part 3, lighting the dramatic moment, because now we actually have to light up that glowing blue jersey, the player's intense face, and those 3,000 overlapping raindrops we just generated. Think about this technical mystery for just a second. Calculating individual shadows and refractions for every single droplet of water, while simultaneously calculating thousands of flashing phone lights from the crowd, that is the kind of math that usually causes a computer to literally burst into flames. Rendering engines absolutely hate overlapping dynamic lights. So how do we do it? Well, our secret weapon here is a new feature in Unreal Engine 5.6 called Megalights. It is a total game changer. It acts as a massive optimizer, meaning it can incredibly efficiently process hundreds of overlapping direct lights without our frame rates crashing down to 0. And even better, it naturally creates these softer, much more believable shadows. This is what lets those giant stadium floodlights and the thousands of tiny little phone lights interact softly and realistically with all that suspended rain. But, we can't just rely on the environmental lights. To make the player truly pop against that dark, rainy background and the chaotic blur of the phones, we have to utilize physical studio concepts. Enter kicker lights. By placing kicker lights on each side of our subject, we simulate this distinct, high-contrast arena lighting.
It gives us this brilliant rim light that traces the outline of that glowing blue jersey, essentially peeling him away from the background and beautifully illuminating the specific water droplets suspended right beside him.
Almost there. Section 4. The real secret to photorealism. We have all the pieces now, right? The camera's orbiting, the rain is frozen, the lighting is dialed in and dramatic. But how do we actually trick the human brain into thinking this digital render is an actual physical photograph taken at the World Cup?
It completely comes down to the language of optics. Whether you're using AI generation or setting up a virtual camera in 3D, you absolutely must think like a photographer, not a prompter. Just typing in vague vibes like ultra-realistic or beautiful is going to give you a cheap, artificial, very computer-generated look. You have to use actual camera optic language. Defining your setup specifically as a Sony a7R IV with an 85mm f1.8 lens gives the engine concrete real-world physics so it can properly replicate depth of field, background compression, and that creamy bokeh effect.
Finally, we've got to dial in the exact output. We render in a 16-bit EXR format with the tone curve completely disabled. This gives us massive color depth in linear space, which is essential for professional color grading. But listen up, because here is the most critical setting for our frozen time effect. We specifically use spatial samples, and we turn temporal samples all the way down to 1. Temporal samples calculate motion over time, which naturally creates blur. By completely disabling them and setting anti-aliasing to none, we guarantee zero motion blur. That's how our frozen raindrops remain perfectly crisp, just like suspended glass.
Looking at the broader marketing pipeline for a second, you might be asking, why go through all this intense, obsessive effort? Well, because this level of high-end 3D animation serves a very specific business purpose. A photorealistic, highly detailed render sitting right at that 45 to 90-second mark is perfectly engineered for the consideration phase of a marketing funnel. It is specifically designed to showcase high-end capabilities, emphasize unmatched realism, and build absolute trust with your audience through sheer visual superiority.
So, there you have it. We've successfully layered dynamic camera techniques, complex particle physics, highly optimized direct lighting, and precise photographic optics to fully deconstruct our master shot. You now have the exact blueprint needed to go out and craft your own visual masterpiece. So I'll leave you with this one thought. Now that you're armed with the power to freeze time and bend light, what world are you going to build next?